Boom.
It's okay.
And we're back. I
got my kid here.
We got Charlie Boy stage right, stage my right, your left.
My left, yep.
So he's going to be interrupting a little bit. Charlie's a funny boy.
He grew up in this place.
Yeah.
And he grew up in my house. And if you met my brothers, well, you have met my brothers, and they're very far from normal. And he grew up in a dressing room, so he's got humor, man.
Well, you know what they say.
Yeah.
The apple doesn't fall far from the
That's true.
tree.
That's true.
When in Rome.
It's so funny when him and I are at home or anywhere, something happens and it's almost like instantaneously. Hey, Charlie, we both look at each other. We have the same face, the exact same reaction. We were talking about it this morning, how like we're almost, I can't say we're identical. I'm his dad, but it's almost like we're the same guy, different.
Exact same, but different.
Same thing, but different. Yeah.
Maybe I'm going to put him on the camera. Can I put you on the camera, Charlie? This is Charlie. So yeah, anyhow, we're going to do a Q&A today. I took some questions from the members that we have.
Oh, can I just start with what we were talking about earlier?
Oh yeah, sure.
So I love this because I don't do TikTok. I don't know any of that stuff.
Yeah.
I can't stand social media. You have no idea how much I don't like it.
Yeah.
It drives me nuts. Everyone's got an opinion about something.
Yeah.
But anyways, you guys were just talking about some of the last TikTok that you put on.
Yeah.
I don't even like using the word TikTok. Sounds childish. But anyways, I guess it's not. And you were talking about you were talking about, was it hockey players shouldn't have an arm day?
I said.
I know what you said.
I said, hockey players, do you need to have an arm day in your program?
Right.
No.
Right.
Is the answer.
Right.
Unambiguous. No. You don't need to have an arm. Yeah. You don't need to have an arm day.
Yeah. Which makes me laugh because you guys Charlie and you were reading a couple of the comments.
Yeah.
And I think it's amazing where people take one comment.
Yeah.
So that's why I can't stand social media, right?
Yeah.
Because people have comments, and it's like you didn't listen to the question, or you didn't listen to the thing, or you didn't read the whole the whole paragraph, man.
Yeah.
So what Eric said was, hockey players, do you need an arm day? And then we have people saying, well, what do you mean you need your arms?
Yeah.
It's like an arm day.
Right. Yeah.
It doesn't. So what a typical arm day is irrelevant for hockey. So Charlie, read a question or read a comment if you don't mind. So one of the comments was, even in the off season, come on, dude.
Yeah. So
okay, that's a cool statement, but hockey players don't have to dedicate a day to arms.
Yeah.
What happens is people take things out of context. So if you want to have a big arms, if you want to have the big arms, a big gun show, that's something, but it's not going to necessarily help you in hockey. The arm day just simply means that you're dedicating that 1 hour of training into your arms, which is irrelevant because anything that you do with a push, we're not saying, like I said earlier, you're not doing bench presses with your lips.
Yeah.
We're still doing bench press, and we're still doing shoulder press, and you're still doing, landmines, and you're still pulling, which would be a bicep. Time you pull, so you're still putting time into your arms. Of course, a defenseman needs to be able to hammer someone in front of the net, or when you go in to hit someone, Charlie, you don't do that without arms, right? You need some arm strength, but to sit there and get big biceps is not necessary. So it's indirectly, it gets work, guys. Yeah. We're not saying don't do anything for your upper body.
Right. Yeah.
So that's how people take this. And that's why I go bananas. That's why I'm so glad you and other people are in charge of our social media, because if I had to read these, so it's context, man. Context. We're not saying, so when people are, sorry, I'm cutting you off. When people are listening or reading things, it's like, okay, you actually thought you sounded smart. Well, would you think that, like, you're in pretty good shape, I'd say, right? Yeah. I'm getting by.
Yeah.
Like I got a set of pipes. Like, go ahead and look. But I'm 53, man, and I don't dedicate to arm days.
Right. Right.
So it's like, I think we get it, and we train a lot of players, and they look really good without their shirts off. I don't mean that in a weird way. Mm-hmm. So we got it. Yeah. So when someone comes on and says things like that, it's like, come on, man. And listen to a whole podcast, and you're going to get the gist of where we come from.
Right. Well, to me, it's all of that. I'm not gonna.
No, I'm not complaining. It's just like,
no, but I'm not gonna beat it to death, because I could go on a rant about it too. But it's like, some of these guys, man, it's like you're not paying attention to what is actually been said. You're interpreting what you want to interpret out of it. Oh, sorry. So somebody said this, why isn't your upper body important for shot power, corner battles, net battles, and overall physicality?
Yes.
Isn't your upper body important? It's like, okay, did I in this video say upper body's not important? No, that's not what I said. I also didn't even say that you can't do an arm day. I said don't have an arm day in your program. If you're planning out your off-season training and you're saying, okay, this day I'm going to do this day I'm going to do this, and you're doing 6 days a week or whatever, one of those days shouldn't be an arm day in your hockey specific training program.
Right.
If on Saturday night you feel like doing some bicep curls at home, or you want to do some arms for a half hour.
Yeah, at the end of a workout,
Yeah.
if you want to bang out like a double tricep just to get your pipes going,
Yeah.
it ain't gonna hurt
Yeah,
you.
that's fine. Right? But I'm saying
Take
if
you
you're
10
if you're
minutes.
taking your specific time that is supposed to be for hockey training, and you're going to fill that block of time with arms.
Yeah.
It's like, that's just not something that's necessary. It's like super uncontroversial. You don't need, like, I don't understand how this was tough to figure out.
Yeah.
But anyways, I have selected 8 questions
Okay.
that I'm going to fire at you with no warning.
Okay, good.
So we're going to get your real-time thoughts on these questions.
Yeah.
A couple of them were from people that are members on the site, and then a couple of them I pulled from other places. So whether it's emails or comments or whatever. So we got a good mix of stuff here. So first one, if you need any clarification, just ask me and I'll try to give a little bit more context.
Of course.
Okay. So this one comes from Daniel.
Okay.
So Daniel, he says, hey, in one of your recent podcasts, you talked about scouting.
Yeah.
And throughout the different skills, I found that something I lack is deception when I have the puck. Do you have any episodes where you have talked about this skill and how to train it? Thanks. So we don't actually have an episode where we've talked about it a little bit here and there on certain episodes, but maybe you can more directly talk about that as a skill.
Yeah, it's definitely a skill. It's definitely a skill. Deception's a thing that. So what I talk about is when guys are skating, as soon as we put a puck on their stick, right? Charlie, we were like even a month ago when I was doing things, I said I want to slow things down, and I want you to create deception. It's a word that I use a lot, and so it's not just because this question comes up. I use that word a lot. Yep. What you want to do is you want to have the ability when you're playing hockey to be able to look like you're making a sales pitch. I'm going to do this, but I did this. I'm going to pass here, but I passed here. I'm going to shoot there, but I actually put it there. So it doesn't come by accident. It actually takes a lot of practice. So the first thing that I would say to a player is when a puck is on their stick, the first thing, it's like we always talk about keeping our head up when we play hockey, and that's true. Why? Most people say so you don't get killed. And I said that's a very good answer. But more importantly, it's so that you can see layers ahead, right? You don't want and it slows the game down for you, especially if you're picking up pucks in tight areas and stuff. You have to look down at the puck and then make a decision when someone's attacking you or defending you. Then it makes it comes a little bit quicker. So if you learn how to keep your head up and scan the ice, then number one, it creates time. So the next thing is when you're practicing, whether you're by yourself or with your team, is yes, start looking in different directions. Like, so that's number one, is if you look one way and make a move another way, or just to create, oh, this guy's eyes are all over the place, then you're making someone else think. So it's huge. Add it into your passing, into your shooting, into your your stick handling. So basically, real simple is if you learn how to scan the ice, you see options. Once you see options, then you can start. If I'm going to make a pass, I can fake to my forehand and then bring it off to my backhand, or fake to the backhand and stuff. And what it does, it buys you time. And it doesn't work all the time, no, but it works. It actually works, and you want to be very good at deception. And I would use it very, very often, right, Charlie? Like you're one of your best forwards in Sasha Pastajov. Deception all day.
Oh yeah.
You never know what he's doing. How about Chayka, right? You're one of your best D that signed with Vegas. He never goes out of puck just going for a puck. It's always a fake, and it's a go. Getting people to bite on things. So critical piece of training.
So talk a little bit more about what are like the physical elements that you'll use that can be deceptive. So when you talk about it in general, you talked about like using fakes, right? But when you're talking about what parts of your body are you using? like how should you use them, how can you use them. I know it can go a lot of ways.
Yeah.
But just kind of talk about the individual physical things that you're doing to be deceptive.
First of all, eyes and head.
Yeah.
Eyes and head. So it's like it's never like if I'm going to my left, so it could be backhand, could be forehand, depending. The first thing is I don't always want to go, okay, now I'm going left because I turned my head that way.
Right.
So that's why head on a swivel is really good. The second thing is like now your toes. That's another thing. If you're turning your toes one way, it's an indicator that you're going that way. But that's why you want to have weight transfers from one leg to the other. That's why it's really important. So off the ice training one leg at a time, but learning how to weight shift properly so that you can drop load up on one leg and dropping shoulders. Hands, another huge one.
Mm-hmm.
Hands in front of you. So like I call it the chicken wing. Sergei Zubov, an old school defenseman, was incredible at this. He'd be at the blue line and chicken wing it. He'd just open up his elbow, just one of these. And guys would bite a lot because he made it look like, okay, I'm pivoting this way, but he actually didn't.
Right.
So just it's little things like that you got to play. Shooting, just opening up the blade or doing a little tap and getting people, like if you come down for a fake snapper and stop on the puck, people are going to flamingo or they're going to act as if they have to. Yeah, well, you have to buy into it.
Yeah,
or
there's no choice. It's a natural body reaction. Yeah.
Yeah, but if you don't, and if you just assume everyone's just faking every time someone shoots, then whatever. Exactly. So it's like there's the whole body really.
Yeah.
The hips. You can by pulling it out and turning your hips. It's the 10 and 2s. Right, 10 and 2ing to protect with your ass.
Yep.
So there's a tons of ways to do it for sure. And I would
perfect.
just anytime you can in a practice, how can I add deception to what I'm doing? And then another huge thing is just one of the simplest things, and you can get back at it, is just look one way, like scan the ice, look one way, as if and make a movement as if you're going there, and then go the other way. And then you get used to it. And you see, especially when guys are in a hurry or they're panicked or they're stressed or they're tired, when you make those little moves, then you buy yourself a little bit of space. Does it happen? Does it work every single time? No, of course not, but it works.
Yeah, I think 2 points I would throw on that too. I talked about this last time, is to be able to focus on, especially when you're young and you're just starting to develop the real skills, like real good puck control, really good skating, playing with your eyes up. You have to be able to take those skills for granted to be deceptive. You have to be confident enough that you're not going to lose the puck on your stick to be able to do a fake, right? Mm-hmm. So you have to make sure that you've practiced your skills enough to the point where you don't have to think about that part. Now you can just think about processing the game, because processing the game is where you can add your deception, right? But if you have to focus on keeping the puck on your stick or focus on how you're pivoting your feet, there's no room for the deceptive part of it yet, because you're not competent enough with those skills. Yeah. So that's the first thing.
I can add to this though, like the one thing that I would go back to, it just made me think of the boxing lesson that I was in a couple weeks ago, and the humility again is slowing things down. People really, more and more, I notice that people want to get they want to get the end result faster than it can ever happen, and without doing the slow, smooth, fast. Right, the taking your time to do the little techniques properly, you never get to the end result. So like a lot of people when they're shooting with me, they want to just get to where I'm at. It's like no, I got to where I'm at from doing this part that's a pain in the ass. Right. So from even a deception point is take your time. In your driveway, in your garage, you can do deception. Stick handle a puck. Here it goes. You're looking this way. You're looking this way. So work on fake shots. Just fake, opening up the blade. You can do it. You can do it anywhere, and then slowly incorporate that into your thing, and it'll work. And maybe even try, like if you're shooting just at home or even in practice, you could. This is what I'm talking about. Little things that make a big difference. You can set in setting an intention for every practice. So if you go and say, I'm going to shoot every puck in the bottom corner, that's an intention for a practice. So now I'm going to shoot every puck with deception, every single pop and every single pass this practice. You'll get better at it. Pretty simple.
For sure. Next one. This is a good one. I'm curious to hear your answer. This is from David. Yeah. David said, hey.
Said it like that with that tone?
Hey, with an exclamation. Hey, I'm a follower of your TikTok page and I find it really useful. I'm going to be a sophomore this year, making a push to make the varsity hockey team. I assume this is a kid from the States.
Yeah.
I felt like last season I asked my coach a lot of questions about my play and what I should be doing better, and about little plays I make, they kind of shrug it off or just say every situation is different and never gave me any answers. Is it me who asks too many questions, or is it my coach not answering my questions? That's a
Could
good. That's a good
Well, it's good
situation. Yeah.
because that's a great question. That is it me,
Right.
and it could be,
That's right.
but it does might probably not, but it
Mhm.
could be. If you're a pain in the ass guy that asks a question, because there's a difference, and it's how you ask questions is really important. Because there's kids out there that initially sometimes they come on the ice with me and they ask a question, I go, geez, I love this. The kid asks a question, but then you realize they ask a question about everything, and it's almost like, just so you know that I'm pretending to really care.
That's right.
So as long as you actually really care, that's the important thing. And I think the squeaky wheel does get the grease. So don't ever be afraid of asking questions, but don't. There is a point where you have to understand as a player that, okay, now you're just being a coach's pain in the ass, and maybe it's someone else that you have to go to. So that's that. But anyways, I would never discourage you asking questions as long as they're real
Mhm.
and you have some substance behind it. It's a very good possibility that your coach is not answering them because he doesn't know the answer. That happens quite a bit. And that goes back to what Eric and I talk about all the time, is like, if you ask why and ask why and ask why and ask why again, meaning, you know, how do you want me to do this, or why are we doing it like that? If they don't have an answer, that means they have zero knowledge. If you go to the next level and they don't have an answer, that's where their knowledge ends. But if they can keep giving you the why, you got a guy with knowledge. So that's probably an indicator. If every question you ask they're just shrugging you off, it's probably because they're lacking knowledge. So you have to go find it somewhere. I was just having a conversation the other day with my daughter's husband, and we were sitting there, and he was a surf. What do you call it? What is he? Wakeboard. He was a pro wakeboard guy. So I was asking him, I said, "How'd you get started in this?" I never really asked him the question, and he said, wakeboarding really wasn't a thing, but we had the boats. We were lucky to have boats as a kid." He goes, and then I started doing it, and he goes, "I had to go to YouTube and find out." So my point to that is that he went and found out. There's always ways to learn. So if you're a student, sometimes you're gonna have to find alternative methods. Sometimes coaches aren't there they don't, number one, don't have the knowledge, and number two, they don't have the desire to help you. So and that'll happen at higher levels too. You have to seek it out in whatever way that you can.
Yeah.
So
A couple things that because what I said to him when I sent him a message back about this question too, and I was saying, because I know some kids and you know some kids too, where to your point, it's like the kid is a pain in the ass because of they're not putting any thought behind their questions. They're just asking them to ask them.
and they want you to say, "Oh wow,
Right.
you're
Oh wow,
really
you're
engaged."
asking questions. Like wow,
Yeah.
you know. And so it's a fine line between being dialed in and you're asking a pointed question because you actually want to know the answer, and you're just trying to be the guy that shows how much they care.
Yeah.
To show how much you care.
Yeah.
You know. And those are the kinds of kids that can get annoying. Having said that, the coach, to me, it's always on the coach
Mhm.
because the coach is the adult in the room, and they should be able to answer your questions and then communicate this message to you. They should be like, "Hey, man, like when you're going to come to me and ask me a question, make sure this is a good question." You know, if you have the kid that's asking you 10,000 questions, as the adult, they should be able to communicate that to you. And there's a lot of problems with coaching in general and how they communicate with kids. So
Yeah.
with this particular situation, I more err on the side of maybe the coach has a problem or something. Like he's not a good communicator, he doesn't have the knowledge, or whatever the situation might be.
Yeah.
But to give the kid a little bit more of like, what can he do? Because if he takes away from this, oh, my coach just doesn't like me or doesn't want to answer my questions or doesn't know anything or whatever. One point you said was, you go find the answers yourself, because you can go find the answers. And this goes to the thing, the common line of, what do you do when nobody watches you, kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know, so when you're at home doing whatever you're doing, are you actually trying to get better because you want to? You know, and that gets back to are you doing it because you care, or are you doing it because you want to show people that you care? Right?
Yeah, you're pretending.
You know, and that's what the difference ends up being. So that's one thing you can do. The other thing too is, like, if you can talk to your coach about it too, like if that's a hard thing to do, or you can just be like, I feel like, if you go have the opportunity to go talk to your coach and just say like, I feel like when I come in to you with questions, I feel like I'm not really getting good answers. So do you have something else I could look for, or something else I could look to, or is there a way I'm asking the questions, that kind of thing, having that kind of conversation? If you have the maturity to do that, that's another option too of how you can deal with your coach.
No,
So,
that's good advice.
yep.
Yeah. Always take ownership of the problem, which this young fella seems like he did, and then ownership is like, yeah, you're right. Like, yeah, is some questions are just ridiculous.
Yeah. You want to
But
take as much ownership as you can all the
yeah,
time, though, because
yeah,
that just leaves you in the best possible position. Otherwise, you feel helpless. Like there's nothing you can do. If you don't take ownership, then it's like, well, there's nothing I can do in the situation, and that's not really helpful, you know. So hopefully that's useful. Next one. Next one here. This guy's name is Canadian Hog Collars.
nice. I don't know what that means.
So on the same thread with the coaching stuff, how do you deal with coaches trying to make you something you're not?
How do you make? Well, okay, that's a really interesting question.
It is.
Again, it kind of come down to in youth hockey, pro hockey. It could come down to a lot of things. A coach may have. I'd say in youth hockey, if that's a question, it could be a possibility that they don't really understand. I'm going to throw that on the coach first. Maybe they don't understand, but especially as you get higher levels, you probably you don't understand. Is typically I see it all the time. Charlie, you see it all the time when you're playing with guys. Like you might see guys that because you can't like listen at your level, right, Charlie? Most of the kids that have played at your level have scored a lot of goals at one point, right? They were the best
They're
on
all
their
the
team.
superstars, man.
Yeah, they're the best on their team all the time. And I know Charlie has said it to me because there's some of the guys on the team that they just can't understand that they're not point getters. That's what I am. I'm a skill guy. It's like, but you're not. Like you were scoring goals at will when you were in youth hockey, making plays, keeping the puck. If anybody was to watch him in youth hockey, you'd say like he's a skill guy, and he does have a lot of skill. But when you're playing with the best of the best, you have to have. Hopefully, there's another attribute that you have that need to be good at. So it's probably not always the coach. It's probably you don't understand yourself, and you probably should embrace a role that the coach has given you because at the end of the day, whether you can be right or you can get ice time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So if you want to be right all the time, yeah, you're going to argue about where you should fit on the team till the end of the season, and you're going to be miserable because the coach just doesn't get you. Instead of just saying, "Coach thinks I should be blocking shots." If you do it, is it going to hurt you? Well, it might physically hurt you, but is it going to make you a worse player? You could still do it the way you play hockey. Right. So I think it's really actually the thing is that when you like Charlie's got a new coach this year. Okay. So the coach that he had last year, George, he's never had a coach like that in his life. And it was good. So this year he's got a new coach. So maybe everything that George wanted him to do, maybe this coach is going to make him do everything different. So do you sit there and say, well, George wanted me to do this? It's not the way it works. Scott wants you to do this. So you better do what Scott wants you to do if you want to have success. Because at the end of the day, if you play the way your coach wants you, who's in control of the ice time? Not you, your coach. So if you do what the coach wants you to do, you have a much better chance of being a successful player at that level.
Yep.
The thing is most players really don't have a clue of what they are.
That's right.
Honest to goodness,
And
they really don't.
I'm gonna hop in with my story again because I did this exact thing, man. Exactly what this kid is talking about. How do you like your coach is trying to make you something you're not? Man, I played that game for my last 2 years of junior. I played that game. My first year as a junior, I had a coach that did exactly how I should be playing, like how I thought I should be playing. Put me right in that role, and it was great, and I thrived. So I thought, hey, this is how I should play. Great. I didn't really have an understanding of roles. I didn't have an understanding of what else I should be good at. I didn't have a comparable of who I play like. I didn't have any of that. So I went to this new team, and my coach, I've said this story before, a couple of months into the season, I talked to him a ton of like way later into the season, and he told me that I should be playing like Scott Hartnell, right? And I've said this to you before. I'm like, Scott Hartnell? Like, what the hell are you talking about? Scott Hartnell is 6'3". He's 215, 220 pounds, plays rough and tough. He's legit power forward grinding guy. I've never once done that ever. You don't know me. You're trying to make me something. You didn't ask me how I play and whatever. All that's true. All that's true. He didn't ask me how I play. He didn't ask me where I think I would fit. He didn't ask me any of that, which I still believe he should have done that. There should have been a conversation. But at the end of the day, he thinks that I need you to do this. Our team needs this. and I would have been far better off doing that. I would have been way more successful and had a way, when I look back on those last few years of junior, I would have had a way better experience had I just done that. And the funny thing too is that when I went and started playing at university, I played like that anyways. I ended up doing that role anyways because I started to have the maturity when I was 22 to say, hey man, if you want to get the ice time, then you need to do this. This is what you need to do. And I started to care about winning my face-offs and blocking shots and making sure I was all over guys on the forecheck and playing exactly the way that my coach said my second year or my last year of junior, you know? So I should have done that anyways, you know?
Yeah. Well, in a perfect world, you'd have a coach to say, okay, I need you to do this because. And you go, oh, because why? Because blah, 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 and blah. And you understand it and you do it because it makes sense. But that's the perfect world.
Mm-hmm.
The world's not perfect. A lot of coaches just say, because I said so. You don't understand. So that's, again, your ownership is on you to figure out why. So my next point to that is, well, and then coaches, if you do have kids, I think it's very important that you do actually explain things to them so that they get it. That's what my number one thing is when I do clinics or we do this in here, the gym in here, or we speak to someone about that. It's always why you're doing it, not because you do it because this is how it's going to benefit you. Here's the why. When the kids understand the why, then they're typically a lot more responsive and they get it and they have a bigger desire to do a role. So for example, most of the kids, if you like that come from a midget program and they're high draft picks and they go to the OHL, they don't know. And they've got parents and coaches and everyone tell them how skilled they are and how great they are. So what happens is you get these kids trying to be all the same player. And then they get frustrated and they don't understand about the checking role. So I just wrote this down as you mentioned that because I think it's very, very important for every player. Overestimate your competition. And that doesn't mean go in there nervous or scared, but overestimate, and don't just pretend to overestimate. Assume every single guy that you're playing against is better than you, has more skill or equal at least, and is faster and works harder and does everything that you're supposed to do as a hockey player. Just assume that they're at the top of that. So if you assume that, then you have to take yours up a notch. And then underestimate how good you are. So when you think you're good, you actually have no idea how good the guys around the world are, or especially when you move to another level, how skilled the skilled guys are. So if you understand that, or let's even say this, let's just say you're the best right winger or best centerman, whatever position you are on your team, and every team's got one like you. So there's still 20 of you. How do you fit going to the next level? Not everyone can score goals, not everything. So when someone gives you a role, embrace it. So I've always told Charlie, and this is not to make Charlie, not to diminish his skill at all, but I've taught him over the last, especially few years, even when he was a kid, back checking and checking and all the little things. I said, those are the important things. The other stuff you'll get. But I said, your goal should be the best third line. Like if you want to play in the NHL, be the best third line player in the entire world and find one or two things that no one does like you. So you might say as a parent or a coach, well, that's kind of selling them short. Try to be a best third line guy. No, because here's the thing. If you're an incredible third line guy and you finish your checks and you block your shots and you're good defensively, good in the neutral zone, do all the little things, if you have the skill,
that's right,
you can move up to the second or first line. But if you don't have that skill, you're either scoring goals or you're out of here. And that's only one spot. But if you're adaptable like a cockroach as opposed to a dinosaur, if you're adaptable, then you always have a chance to play. You're always needed. But if you're only good on power plays or the offensive side of the puck, or if you're only good at the defensive side, that's it. Then you're limited to where you can go. So if you can be the best all-around player, so I say for him, I say be the best third line right winger that anyone could ever find, you'll play hockey for a long, long time.
Yep. And the funny thing too is like now one of the things that, using Charlie as an example, one of the things that separates him is the physicality.
Yeah.
It's not his shot. Like it's not
right, because okay, so you say that with his shot is great.
His shot's unreal.
Right, but so is everyone in the
exactly, right? So the thing that separates him is like, man, like you throw some body.
Right.
So it's not his ability to drive the net and cut
Right.
and to tuck it back.
Yeah.
That's not what the separator is.
Right on.
So the fact that he's tried to build some of those characteristics is paying off for him as a first-year OHL player going into his second year.
Yeah.
Now he has that as part of his identity.
Yeah.
And once has enough opportunity to let his skill come out, now it's like he might change, but he still has that backdoor role of worst case scenario, I can lay a guy out.
That's right.
You know?
That's right.
And that's the same with a guy like Jerv is like that too. On the back check, we were just playing out there today, right? And I'm like, I have the puck going to make a pass, whatever. Then I got a stick coming through my legs to knock the puck. I'm like, where is this stick coming from? And that's freaking Jerv, man.
He's absolutely tenacious when it comes to stripping pucks. And Charlie said that. So one of the things that Charlie did in his interviews when he was getting all his OHL interviews, they said, who's someone that you'd want to take with you to play with for the rest of your life? And he always said Seabass, because he was all the little things that he does that no one really notices, but you notice playing against him.
Patrice Bergeron, man.
Right? He just
strips you
pucks.
Think you have the puck, and all of a sudden you see a stick come around your right hip, and it's like in your hands, and it's like shit, and now you muffin a pass, and it's a turnover.
Absolutely tenacious.
And so here's another one, right? So he's a guy that what stands out about him, nobody says his blazing speed. Right. Nobody says how good his hands are in tight, but he is fast. Yeah. He does have good hands, but it's that this guy's stick is always up my ass, and I can't, no matter what I do, I got this freaking stick in my back pocket.
He's a pain in the ass.
He's a pain in the ass, man. He's an absolute pain in the ass.
It's a pain in the ass.
And that's what ends up being a separator for him.
Yeah.
It's not those other things. So that's an awesome advice to give to all the kids coming up. It's like, you need to have something else, man. Yeah. Because the 1% guys are the 1% guys, and if you're not one of those, which is highly likely, if you can have something else, then you're just better off, man. So 100%. Don't think that it's the coach trying to make you something you're not. You don't know what you are yet. Yeah. You don't know what you are. You should be open to being whatever comes your way, because if you want the best chance at moving on to a higher level, then you need to have a wide array of skills. You need to have a skill set so you can pick one thing to maybe be a separator for you, Well,
it's funny because I'm just looking at, I watch the OHL so closely now. It's just so funny to watch, like the NHL draft is coming and then guys that are ranked, and guys, Charlie, some guys are devastated. Like, they're going, what do you mean? I'm like, what do you mean? It's like, no, everyone's the same. Like, everyone's the same. Like a centerman that's fast, that tries to score goals, that doesn't, like, they're all the same guy. So then you get a guy like, I'm just going to throw a name out there, Connor Geekie out west. He's probably going to go in the top 10, right? Probably top 10 in the NHL draft. Apparently 6'4", finishes hits and stuff like that. He's different. He's different. He sticks out, right? Cutter Gauthier, another power forward, just different. Like, you get something a little different.
It's like anything. Like, you think when you go for a job interview, or anybody who runs a business or is an employer, and you're in charge of hiring people, if you got 15 resumes that are the same, what are you looking for? Like, you're looking for the one that's got something a little bit, because it goes, oh, maybe I want to take another look at this guy, or whatever. So it's important, man. It's really good. It's really good advice, and that was something I did not at all understand when I went through junior. So try to keep that in mind, especially with the parents too, man. Like, try to make your kid a first line player. That's fine, but they got to have some other attributes. Next question. This one should be probably quick, but good to rant about. So this comes from Matt. Thanks, Matt. Do you need all the fancy weights and a trainer to be seeing results for strength and power? Because I've been trying to find workouts to do at my house, but I don't know which workouts I can do with weights to help with speed, explosiveness, and getting stronger. That's the question.
Yeah, the answer is ideally you'd like to have everything, but that's just sometimes life throws you lemons. You got to make lemonade. So you do what you can with what you have. That's it. That's all.
Yep.
There's ways to get strong. Like, for example, Dave Steen who was my friend, who was a bronze medal decathlon in the 1988 Olympics. So you can look him up, David Steen. He was a business partner of mine, and we trained a lot of hockey players at one point. And he was saying one of the best things that he ever seen. He said there's this Polish guy, I think it was Polish. They were at a track, and the trainer had whatever the guy's thing was. He had legs this big, and he said he had him start at the starters. The guy that used to pull the gun for races on that big tall staircase, put it in a jumper's pit, and he'd have him jump down to to land in dirt in the sand. And he said it was all about the deceleration speed. It was legs like this, so there's no fancy equipment. All you had to do was jump off. I'm not saying jump off a bridge, guys,
Yeah.
but I'm saying that's one way. There's a million ways that you can get stronger. You don't need fancy weights. One of the things that you can look on, you can touch on this. I'm just gonna give one or two examples. Is your tempo. So you don't need a lot of heavy weights if you're doing tempo. So if you like, for example, if a kid's doing, let's say, a squat of, they think that they're doing a really good squat and they got 275 on their back, let's say, and they're going, up, down, up, down. I saw a couple of people that play hockey, they're doing it. I'm going, well, that's doing actually nothing. Because here's the thing. You could put 275 on your back or 200 and whatever for a bench press. And if you have zero tempo, then let's say you do 10 reps and it takes you it takes you about 10 to 15 seconds. Okay. Or have tempo to it and add a 3 to 4 second eccentric or deceleration move, right? So if you're going down on a squat, don't just go down, go 1, 2, 3. I guarantee you won't have that same 275 on your back, and you'll do it no problem. What'll happen is you're going to be really tired. You might not be able to do 1 or 2. But the thing is that you're doing that heavy weight, or you're doing the weight, and it's now lasting 5 seconds per rep. So now you're at 50 seconds of work as opposed to 10 or 12. So you can do that with any exercises. The tempo would make a big difference. And I'm turning it over to you now.
Yeah, well, just quick on the tempo thing, because I'm like deep in the weeds on this right now, and it's freaking awesome to learn about. So I'm reading a Triphasic Training, which is the best book I've ever come across ever about training stuff. So if anyone's interested in being a trainer, it's not, if you have no background in training, like that's not the first book you read, right. But anyways, so to your point about the tempo stuff, he had 2 guys, one of the examples he gave where he started to figure this out, like the three different pieces of lifting. Any muscle action is the eccentric, the isometric, and the concentric. So the eccentric, slowing down, you come to a point where you have to stop, and so it's like a change direction, right? That's every muscle action has that. So if you're skating on the ice, it's I have to change direction, stop, go the other way. That's that, right? You slow down, you stop, you speed up the other way. So he was talking about these 2 guys that were Division I shot putters. Both of them had the same max bench press, and bench press is the best proxy move for doing your shot put that you can train. So he couldn't figure out, why is this one guy like an absolute all-star and this other guy is like an average to below average Division I shot putter, and he couldn't figure out. They have the same bench press max, so they should be close, and it wasn't close. So when they started to test them, they ended up plotting their movement pattern when they were doing the bench press, and they saw that the guy that was the 1%er, let's say, of the shot put, he could slow the weight down way faster than the other guy. So the difference between the 2 people in the study that they did was this guy could bring that same maximum weight to a stop and start shooting it back the other way faster than this other guy.
Without that rebounding reflex.
Yeah, it was just his stretch reflex doing that, and his shortening cycle doing that to bring it down, stop, and push. He could bring it down and change direction faster than the other guy. So because he could do that whole movement in a shorter period of time, you produce more power, because power ends up being a function of time, right? Yeah. Because power is your force and velocity. Everyone knows velocity is measured in meters per second. So
not everyone.
Oh, yeah. Well, if you didn't know that, velocity is meters per second. So seconds is one of the things that contributes to power. So if you can minimize seconds, then you're going to maximize what your power is. So because this guy could do it in a shorter period of time, he could produce more power on the other end. So their maximum was the same, right? Keep that in mind. Their maximum bench press weight, their absolute max, was the same. This guy was way better, and that's because he could do this other portion of it. So back to the question, what you don't want to do is you don't want to make the excuse that, oh, I don't have stuff, because there's always a better toy you could have. Yeah. Unless you're working out at Minnesota State, where they have top of the line everything that everyone has free access to whenever they want, and the best trainers and all the technology and all this kind of stuff, there's always something better that you could have. So you could always say, I don't have this, I can't do this because I don't have this. So especially when you're young and you really don't have your foundation set, You get the newbie gains, man. You can do anything and you'll get better.
Yeah.
You know, if you want to get faster, go do some hill sprints. Go do some track sprints.
Jump up a hill.
Jump like this.
Do jumps. You'll see your legs get bigger and faster and stronger.
Right. And if you don't have workouts to do, or you don't have a program to follow, or you can't afford to buy a program or whatever, there's so much free information. You have to be able to filter out the good resources, first of all. So that's a skill. But after that, it's like if you go on like PowerTech, the YouTube channel for PowerTech, every move I have in the program that I'm selling is on there.
Yeah.
It's all free. It's not assembled in the program for you, but all the movements are there.
Yep.
Like just go take them. It's like you want to work on your legs, go to the playlist, pick out 5 of the leg movements. There you go. Do that. You know, if you don't have to have the most scientific program that's perfectly designed for you as an individual to get results. You don't have to. Is that optimal? Yes. But if you can't do it, that doesn't mean, oh, I can't do anything now because I don't have what my next door neighbor has because he has a fancy trainer and goes to the gym and all this kind of stuff. It's like you don't actually need that. And we've talked about that before, is you overcomplicating things.
Yeah.
You know, especially when you're young. Like you have a lot of leeway of what you can do to improve, man. You have a lot of leeway. If you're in your 5th year in the NHL and you're not doing something that's hyper specific, then that's probably not going to be great for you in terms of progress because you're already so experienced and so advanced as an athlete. But man, when you're 20 and under, it's like, dude, you could do anything and you'll get better.
Yeah,
you know,
you get a lot of results from running up a hill.
Yeah,
doing jumps.
Yeah, for sure.
Just straight up push-ups, pull-ups. But you can go do a pull-up almost anywhere.
Yeah.
So, and sometimes it's better to just throw big rocks. I don't know. There's things you can do.
Well, this is like the farmer kids, right?
Yeah,
you see you see the meat and potato farmer kids that just have that man strength, and it's like, yeah, it's not because they go to the freaking Mavati with a personal trainer that designed a program for them. It's like, no, it's because their dad makes them carry the pail of water 48 times a day.
Yeah. Well, it's even for us. We had the we wanted to do a lot of rear elevated stuff, and I wanted to get the pads to put your roller, so it's a lot more convenient. You can adjust the heights and all that stuff. But you know what? There was a little bit of a point where it's like, I don't want to invest in that yet, and we finally did, and it's way better.
Yeah.
But when we had our feet elevated on something else, it wasn't the end of the world.
Could still do it.
Is what it is.
Yeah.
So and we can get a better pad, and we can make it
you
know what I mean. Like
sure.
we could just keep getting better. It's never good enough. So.
Yeah, that's right. Next one. So I'm kind of going to attach a question to this one. Because somebody was kind of complaining to me on here. So I had a comment from seems like a mom, because her name is Hockey Mom 37. And this was the comment. Said, some coaches just don't like kids no matter what, and they'll never play them, and they never talk to them or show them anything. They're not going to get played all year and stuck because they signed the card, so they lost their entire year because of the coach. So this isn't a question. This is just a comment, and I'm making a question out of this.
Okay.
So, because this is the I got screwed attitude, right?
Yeah.
This is the I got screwed attitude.
Yeah.
So, regardless of what your situation is, I'm going to frame the question to you this way, is let's give this person the benefit of the doubt. What if your coach doesn't like you? Okay. Yeah. That's the question I'm going to pull out of this. So what do you do if you're this person and this is what you think, like, I'm going to lose the whole year. I'm stuck because I signed, my coach sucks, blah, blah, blah. We'll play both sides of it, but let's start with assume that that's right. And your coach just doesn't like you. What do you do?
Well, why doesn't he like me?
Yeah.
There's a reason. So I might want to figure out what it is that he doesn't like about me. So if I walk in there and I'm a jackass, or I'm a kid that's just annoying, because there's that. You might like a kid's hockey ability at first, and then the kid just wears you out because it's like everything he does, he just gnaws on you. There are those every now and then. We know a couple.
Yep.
Not even customers. Or one used to be. And it's like everything they do, they're driving nuts. So that's one thing. So again, it goes back to earlier in this thing. So take ownership of your life, man. If someone doesn't like you, there's a reason. Is it your hockey? Figure it out. Ask a question. Go to the coach and say, I feel like you don't like me. These are the things you can do. I don't know too many coaches that just hate a kid or kids and don't want anything to do and don't want to make it better. I don't see it.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Especially a kid that comes up to you in a decent demeanor and says, Coach, I just feel like you don't like me. And he'll probably tell you, no, I like you. Or he'll say, yeah, I don't like you because you're a pain in my ass. Or you suck at hockey, and he'll sell you something.
Yeah.
So that's my answer, and I don't really have a whole lot more to say.
Yeah. So let's
Figure it out.
flip this to the parents now, right?
Yeah.
Because if this is mom leaving this comment, so now if you're mom or dad and you think that, give a couple words for the parents if that's the perspective that you have as mom and dad. What do you do as mom and dad now?
Would I if I have that?
If you think that your kid is in that situation,
Where if I think my son
is in that
is
situation where I'm getting coach doesn't like my kid and he's
how
not
old?
giving
Well,
him the
it's going to
opportunity.
depend on how old the kid is, I think.
Either way, whatever.
Okay, well,
Take it however you
number
want.
one, it's I go back and take ownership. What are you doing wrong to make this guy hate you? That's my number one thing.
Mhm.
I would talk to my kid. I wouldn't blame the world. I don't know if I'm missing the point, but it's if he's really young, then I would go up to the coach and go, "Is there something that my kid?" I mean, talking about young, is there something my kid does? Because it just seems like you don't like him at all, and then the guy might say something, might not. But I would take that ownership if I had to. But I would take ownership with my kids. Like, well, maybe I'll point out a thing or two. Maybe you come in and when he's talking to you, you're looking somewhere else, or you're not trying hard. Your efforts low. I'd find the first place I'd look is with me and my son.
Mm-hmm.
Then after that, I would maybe I'd tell my son to go talk to the coach, or if he was too young to do that, I would do it. I don't know if I have another answer.
No, yeah, that's fine, man. Because I just want to put a staple in that the woe is me thing, right?
Yeah, and it drives me bananas. And I'm sorry if I offend anybody that listens to this, but I can't stand it when it's always someone else's fault. I hate it. Yeah. Like this politics in hockey. Yeah, there's some politics in hockey, but when you're one of the better players, the politics leave. So if the coach doesn't like it and always got screwed, he didn't get drafted because of this, he didn't get the ice because it's always someone else's fault, then you're in for a long freaking life. This game is way too hard for that.
Yeah.
You better be able to eat some shit.
So
figure out how to solve problems.
So I really like this question. It's a good question. So I don't know how, the name is IK487812.
Okay.
So I don't know. How much stock do you think NHL teams are putting in room guys? So I'm assuming he's meaning, or she is meaning, to get like good guys in the room. How much stock do NHL teams actually put in that?
It's a lot of angles you can take this one. So I would say that number one, they take the biggest stock they take. Are you a good hockey player? That's number one. But there are definitely room guys. Definitely. Like, for example, I'm just trying to think of a team right now, but they still keep guys around with the presence that to take young kids along to show them the ropes, captains, older guys that you get see a guy with an extra couple years on his contract just literally for being good in the room and good for the guys. I think Darren McCarty, I was listening to him talk. He was be the first to admit, like, he won 4 Stanley Cups and he had his own issues, right? But his last year winning the cup, he said it himself that he wasn't necessarily the best player at that time. They could have had a better player in his spot, even for the role that he played. But he goes, it was the room, and he knew the pulse of the team and where it needed to go as a winner. So that was the one reason that he was there. So there is a very important thing to a certain degree. Like, first of all, getting to the high levels, you have to have a base. You have to be a good hockey player. That's number one. If you're not because you wouldn't have, no one would have took a chance on Evander Kane again.
Yep,
right?
for sure.
You have to be able to play hockey. But then you need the yin yang. You need someone to take him and sort things out. So I think there's a good importance on room guys.
Yeah, I feel like the later you go in the career, the more stock you have as being a good guy in the room kind of thing. And then on the flip side of that, we've talked about this before too, which is kind of interesting, is the better player you are in terms of your absolute skill level and what you contribute in that way, the less it matters how good of a room guy you are.
Yeah.
You know, because a lot of people, when they talk about this, it's like a very it's more of like on the taboo topic side to say that people don't really give a shit about how you are in the room. And I think that's actually true to a pretty solid degree. Every team I've played on, there's some guys that are on the team like, you're a goof, dude, but you're just really good. or the coach thinks you're really good and
Yeah.
I want you here because you're really good and I
Yeah.
don't actually care that you're a problem in the room, that's actually worth it to me to have you because you're that good. That runs out for a lot of guys.
Yeah.
And it becomes more important as you go later into your career that you are good in the room, because there's no reason to keep you around when there's a player that's better than you.
Yeah.
Right. So that's another one of those things where it's another element, it's another skill that you can have that makes you valuable on the team. And that's maybe the reason McCarty got to win another cup, is because he had that. Otherwise, he
Yeah.
would have been out. They
Yeah.
would have had somebody else in,
Yeah.
whatever. So there's definitely still a role for it. But
Yeah.
how good you are as a player kind of will determine how important the being good in the room is for me, anyways.
Yeah, just the two examples that come to my mind like that is Evander Kane and Tony DeAngelo. Like they're always a problem. It seems always a problem, like big time problems,
Yeah.
but they always end up getting jobs.
Right.
So they're good at they're overlooked for their room stuff, but obviously they have people in that room that can balance it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
got one or two more here. So we did an episode where you talked about the categories that scouts look for in players, and I thought this might be an interesting one for you personally. So somebody commented on one of the videos. What are your categories, Coach Andy? What do you look for in a player if you were, let's say, in the scouting role?
compete.
You want to just stop at that?
That's all I care about.
Just-
Honestly. Okay, like you gotta
Yeah.
have a base hockey, but there's players that, you know, a couple of scouts have asked me about a player here and there, and I'm like, yeah, well, I'm not interested. I'm not. The reason I say that is because when I played and when I coached, I just see the guys that are competitive, that will do anything to win. And at the end of the day, when it comes down to skill versus will, I find will wins. At the end of the day, I'd rather have will than skill. I mean,
given that there's skill,
I don't want some ham and egger like at every position at all 4 lines.
Yeah.
I'm saying if I want a skill, if I have a guy that's skilled, I also want him to be able to bang someone. I also want him to have some grit to him, and that's me. Compete for me 100%. I want a guy. So we're watching Denny out there today. So Denny Gour plays for Owen Sound Attack. Not the biggest guy at all, but he competes. It's no wonder he's a 30-goal scorer. No wonder he was a first for 8th overall in the OHL. No wonder he's going to go. He went to a pro camp, and things are going to happen for him. Competes in those small areas. He might not go and crack someone's skull every time, but he's under those sticks and he's battling and he gets pucks. I want that. I don't want a guy that is waiting and waiting for other people to do things and want things easy. I want guys that are going to compete.
Yeah.
And then the next thing I would say after that, that's the number one for me. That's number one, because I don't care how you score the goal or how we get the puck to the net. It doesn't have to be a beautiful pass and a beautiful skill thing. I just want it to the net and I want it done hard. But I want someone getting to that net. That's me. And then the second effort on everything, that's part of the grit. And then I want guys with good body language and that's going to represent what I like. So when I see someone throw their head up in the air and all the frustration and when you score a goal, that you go to the crowd, you make sure everybody know that you did it. Look at, I'm a star for the second. I don't even want it on my team. I don't. I can't stand it. I want guys that go and just do the job, that do it hard every single day.
Beauty.
And that's it.
Yep, I love that answer. It's good. Okay, I got a good one here to finish up on. I want to kind of take it a little into the more like philosophy avenue after. I'll let you answer it up front first, but then I'm going to kind of direct it into a deeper conversation after that, because I think it's important. So I got there's 3 questions here. This is from Michael, and so I got three comments I'm going to read to you so you get the gist. So he said, random question about a player just leaving the WHL with decent numbers, not getting any interest other than Canadian universities.
Mm-hmm.
Any advice on going pro? That's number 1. 2, do you think U Sports, so that's Canadian University League, closes the door to pro? Many undrafted free agents go to the East Coast League, and how would Europe be ranked compared, or how would Europe be ranked to getting back to North America, going to play pro there? Last question. Any recommendations as far as U Sports goes? Sounds like University of New Brunswick is kicking tires and all that. So 3 kind of talking about life after the CHL
Yep.
options.
Yep.
So I'll let you just go thoughts on that, and then I'll direct you a little more if you need it after that.
Yeah. So a lot of times we're watching kids leaving the OHL to go to CIS, and they're pretty good players. So everybody thinks that they're a pro, right? This goes down to understanding your game. People really don't know what they are. As I look, there's a lot of guys that are gone because they had a lot of grit, not a lot of skill.
Yep.
And then there's a lot of guys that have a lot of skill, not a lot of grit. So there's something missing. Like, that's what I'm saying. It's always that bucket of vanilla. Everyone's trying to be the same guy. Listen, if you go to the Guelph Storm training camp, you're going to see a dime a dozen of the same guy. But then you're going to see the guys that make the team have just something. They're either a lot better at something, or they have another element to your game. You'll be surprised what guys sign in different places because, and we say it all the time, where does this guy come from? He's not that good. He's good at something. Patrick Maroon for the Tampa Bay. Well, it's not a coincidence that he's been on 4 Stanley Cup finals in the last 4 years, right? 3 Stanley Cups in 4 years. There's something. He's not the best skater. He's not the best shape. Something about him that plays his game. He brings something that other people don't bring. So the reason that people don't get the pro shot, there's a reason. It's a glaring reason because there's 32 teams that get a chance to make an opinion of you. And if you don't stand out to 32 teams, you did something wrong. It's like in the OHL, or if you didn't get a scholarship, all these teams are actually looking. And if you go 15 rounds in the OHL and not one team took you, it's not them. They might make a mistake and you might be a late bloomer or something, but at that time, it's not them, it's you. So you have to figure it out. That's just the honest to goodness truth.
Yep.
Are there mistakes made? Once in a while, not very often. Everybody knows. So taking that a little further, I was saying Europe? Is that what the question was?
He was just saying like thoughts on avenues to go pro. So Europe versus North America. If I go to Europe first, can I get back to North America if I want to play through the coast or if I want to do whatever?
Yeah.
So
okay, so same shit, different pile. Like for this player, obviously he's a good hockey player. He's playing in the WHL. He's going to move on. What you have to look at before you decide it doesn't matter what league you're in. You got to figure out what the thing is that held you back, right? So ask yourself, look at some video. Are you playing like everybody else? That's all I have to say. Are you defensively sound because you had good numbers? Okay, so that's good. If you have good numbers and come out of the major junior leagues, that's good, right? That's a good sign. So there's a deficiency, 100%. Are you physical? I don't know. I've never seen you play, but ask yourself the question. Are you good in your own zone? Like truly good in your own zone? Do you work your ass off in your own zone? Is it body language? Are you 5'3"? Are you 6'9" and you don't hit anyone? Like those are the questions. So there's a deficiency, 100%, that you're not good enough or you're good enough, but you don't have something. Is it the second effort? Is it the battle? Is it all those things? I can't tell you because I don't see you play, but without ever seeing you play a game, if you went through the 3-4 years of the Canadian Major Junior and you were not drafted or you're not belong to a team, there's a deficiency in your game. And you're not an asshole, just something that you have to recognize. If you truly want to be a pro, something needs to change. So maybe you go over humbly with a coach, with someone that can actually be honest with you and tell you exactly what it is you need to fix. And if you fix it, whether you play in Switzerland, Africa, North America, East Coast League, Southern Professional League, whatever, you'll be a better hockey player and people will notice it. They're always looking for a good player. That's the bottom line. So
then, sorry, I was going to say, just let's go. I want to go one more layer on that to finish off here. So going the U Sports route and trying to go play pro and stuff after that, what would you say to people that like him or like some of the other guys we know that are now playing U Sports and want to go play pro and whatever? What are your thoughts about we're trying to make a career as a hockey player taking this route now? So I want to know what you think about, and just in terms of life, what you think about trying to chase that pro avenue, going that route, and just your thoughts on it. I think that's a good discussion that I haven't really heard people have before.
Yeah. Well, obviously, I am not in anybody's head, so I have zero. I can never tell any player at any level when they should give up their dream. Okay, that's not fair. That's only you have to do that, right? You know what's inside the tank, all that right? And if you want to play youth sports and become a pro, then you actually need to be the best player in youth sports by far. Or bring something that opens up eyes. So if you're not doing that, then it's not going to happen anyways. So it depends on what you call pro.
Right.
Do you call the NHL pro, or do you call the East Coast or the SPHL pro? Like, it depends. And if you want to make $1,000 a week, you consider that pro. That's cool. That's good. I have no judgment on that. It's all good. So, but anyways, from a hockey perspective, if you want to do that, you have to be the best player, and you have to fix things. You have to have a desire, and you have to dedicate yourself. And NHL teams or pro teams are always looking for good players, so that's not out of the question. The other side of it is, a lot of the kids, and I think this is what you're asking, a lot of the kids don't know when to end it. Right? We'll talk to people that talk about their days playing pro, and it's like, well, you played pro, but it wasn't really pro. It was like you had 17 letters. It's a WHWL, whatever, PHL. It's like the more letters you have, the less successful or less good of a pro league it is, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And and if you're playing in populations that hold 2,500 fans, it's not like a big pro league. Anyway, I'm not cutting that up.
No, it's like just the sharp. It's like if you're gonna have a life as a professional hockey player, like if you're gonna make your living playing hockey, that's kind of the dividing line, right? So it's like if you can make a living, you think that you're gonna grow up on this as your salary, that you're gonna have a wife and kids and a house and all that with.
Yeah,
that's kind of what pro means to me. Like if you can afford to do that based on the league you're playing in, that's kind of being a pro player.
Yeah.
So just with that kind of that outline to assist you, because I think the same thing. It's like if you're what you call pro is like, yeah, but like, are you gonna have a life ever? Because you still have to get a job, So it's like, what kind of life do you want to have?
Yeah.
Right. And so I think for some of the guys that you're talking about that are all that upper echelon, where it's like they want to move up to the higher leagues in Europe, where they can actually make some decent money or whatever. It's like that's one thing, but it's another thing to say, I'm going to go through the youth sports route to play pro. Like, what's the goal? Like, what are we trying to do here? Like, what's the end goal kind of thing? You know what I mean?
Yeah. And the thing is God, it's so hard for me to say this, but the bottom line is that I've seen a lot of players. One that works with us right now plays pro in Italy. He was a first round OHLer. He was drafted in the NHL. He's a really good hockey player. He's really good. Scored a lot of goals in the OHL, and had a hard time just getting to Europe. Fortunately, he's Italian, and he had he's a, what do you call it? Non-import resident.
Yeah, he's a citizen. Yeah.
So it's like he gets a spot, but like if you're me, right? Like I had an offer to go play in Switzerland, but I don't have any European connection, so I have to be a true import. So it makes it harder. So if you're, my bottom line is that like at any level, honestly, it's really hard. It's really hard. So if you can't figure out your game to get to a high pro level, to make yourself different and stand out, then it's just always going to be really, really hard to do. And there's a point where you have to just look at your game. And I'm not being negative to this person, because I won't actually hope you can figure it out.
Yep.
But if you can't figure it out, then because the bottom line is like the game is so fast now, the younger you are, the better. So if you're trying to make pro at 25, 26, 27, it's kind of behind you for the most part, right? For the most part, you're not getting probably a whole lot quicker. It is your prime. So if you haven't made it by then, it's probably just logically probably a better idea to look somewhere else for work. And I don't mean that as a jerk. It's just, and I'm not saying give up on your dream. I'm not saying that, but it's like at some point you have to be realistic about your life. And it's if you haven't done it at 25 to 27 years old, it's probably you're not at the high level. Hockey's gone, most likely, unless you can go after university, 26 years old, and play in the East Coast and score 50 or get 300 penalty minutes a year, and people open up their eyes and you get opportunity. But you got to be willing to get that.
Yeah.
But like here's the bottom line. Can I be honest with you? You know. Like when I looked at my life, when I was finishing it up, I was sitting there going, okay, I want this. I'm 5'9.5". It's a jungle. I actually to be honest with you, I don't want to, and I think I have it in me to go and bust my nose. Because that's what it would take. It would take me go busting my nose to get to the net every game. Take a two-hander across the chops every game. I didn't have it in me, and I didn't want to. So I could have went. So I had my offer in Europe and stuff like that, and it's like, cool, that was good. But at the end of the day, I knew where I was at. I knew that as good as I wasn't good enough to make Brendan Shanahan money, obviously, right? Or to make the $1 million a year. I just, at that point in my life, I knew. So we disguise what we know in lies, right? We disguise it in all kinds of different lies, like someone screwed me, the opportunities were there, or all the lies come, or we pretend that we are really, really trying, but if you have it in you. And the bottom line is that if you aren't willing, especially when you're not a superstar, if you're not willing to get up every day and have a burr up your ass and ready to eat raw steak and with nails in it every day, and go through a freaking grind and work your balls off harder than actually harder than anybody else with enough skill to maintain it, you're not going to make it, right? So there's a truth that we all know. We know if we're good enough. And you can just look on your team, the team that you just played for, right? You know exactly where you are. And if you don't, you should. So if you know that if you honestly look in the mirror and you go, I'm working as hard as I can, I actually am, and I'm mucking it out for a third line, second power play, and I'm 20 years old. Guess what? It's probably not a real thing. And that's not being a goof.
No, that's great. And that's kind of what I wanted to bring up too, because it's that endless chase thing that happens with so many hockey players. And the reason I wanted to, you took it exactly where I wanted you to too, which is great, because it's like, you go chase it for another 7, because it was the same thing. Exactly what you said about you. That's what I said about to myself as well. It was like, I was in my last year at the university, and it was like, okay, am I going to take that road? It's like, I don't want to, you don't want to miss, there's other things you could do with your life,
Yeah.
There's other opportunities, and in hockey too. Yep. That's the other thing, right? Yeah. It's like, there's other opportunities that you can get and explore and go after in hockey. Yeah. Where you can still be attached to the game. You can still follow your passion and you make a lateral move into something that's in the same world, but a little bit different, without going through the 5 to 7 year grind of kicking the shit out of yourself for what? Yeah. For what? And that was the same exact conversation I had with myself that you were talking about, that you had when you finished playing. I was going into my last year already I might stop, and then it was like my last year happened, and I was like, why? What are we doing here? What is going to happen? Best case scenario, if everything goes perfect, how high am I going to get? How far am I going to go?
Well, another indicator, honestly, is when you're going through it, is do you have to force emotions? So when you lose a game, do you actually look around and go, okay, everybody's pissed off? Oh yeah. Someone takes your spot in the lineup, right? You're young, right? And you sit there and you go, I just want to get more opportunity. If you say it I just want more opportunity, if they give me opportunity, I'll do it. Or are you sitting there and go, I am going to rip someone's head off next shift because I want that spot. And it bothers you and it stirs you. And it's like, I can't have this happen. I am better, and I'm going to show it, and I'm going to show it, and I'm going to show it. And you actually grind through it, not hope someone gives you an opportunity, because hoping someone gives you an opportunity, you're going to hope till you're 30 years old and then you look for a job. So at the end of the day, when you actually grind and work and practice, and it upsets you and you do the shit to get to that point, at 25 years old, when you get to, or 24 years old, I'm not willing to do this anymore. I'm just not good enough. Because you've done everything you can, but it's the guys that sit there and want it to happen for them because it would be nice. Why not me? Because why you? Why? Because you got this guy over here that's going to do everything he can to get there, and it shows in every aspect of it, right? His nose is, goes 7 different ways, right? He's got more, he's got a roadmap for eyebrows. Yeah. It is what it is. Yeah. Are you willing to do that? You never were, so why would you be now?
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's good.
Anyways.
I like finishing on that topic. I think I'd like to do another episode talking about that in more depth as well, just like
Sure.
the other life stuff, because I think it's important, especially for guys that are in that position, because we come across so many of those guys too now, man. Like that are just in the endless cycle, like the endless hockey cycle. And
Yeah.
if you want to do that, man, like if that's the life you want, like that's fine. You can do that, But
Yeah, you got to make decisions. You got to live with them. Though.
yeah, I think some people just don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Right? They don't know how to get out of it, or they don't know what else they'll do if they're not chasing the hockey thing, whatever. So I think
we put so many people put their identity in me and the hockey player. I did when I was a young kid.
Oh, me too.
I was Andy the hockey player. Everybody knew me for hockey. When I got out of hockey, it was a struggle for me. Actually, here's a lesson for guys. This was a struggle for me because I put everything I had into being Andy the hockey player. Of course, I wanted to be a good person and all that shit, but as Andy, I identified myself as a hockey player. When that's over, then it's a hard reality that no one cares about you. No one cares. So then you have to make sure that you're Andy the something else. You're just Andy, and this is who I am, and you're good with it. Because if you're not, then it's a long life. It's a long, hard life.
Yep. Awesome, man. So we'll cap it there. That was good. We'll see you guys next week.